Hello, everybody. This is Gynarchy Awakening. I've got to get going at some point to go. Some like times I need help with a job application because it's weird. Other times I want to go talk to certain people. It just never seems like it's enough. But I saw a title on one of the Reddit groups, and I thought it was actually a really good one. But I'm also dedicating this to one of the individuals, particular woman who I have I have an agreement with. I have very similar sentiment. Everyday ways in which you express your personal dedication to Gynarchy. Right. So, um, what I saw was like little stuff like related to etiquette and stuff like and that's nice. I agree with her that the standards need to be higher, but I also wanted to say that what do you define as a little thing? What exactly is little versus what is big? And how does doing a bunch of little things lead to the big thing, right? So when I started doing my Gynarchic activism, and when I do it, and I do it every day, and when I go, I try to push the limit of what I'm capable of doing despite my health and what I go through psychologically. What I have discovered is that doing a little bit at a time, like a little bit here, a little bit there, may lead to a bigger outcome later, further down the line. But doing things and doing certain kinds of little things in a purposeful manner will lead to much bigger outcomes. So, while etiquette and giving up your seat and these things, it's nice. Um, it's also nowhere near good enough. And I'm not trying to be mean to people. I'm just trying to show that there's a way to do little things every day that will lead to big payoffs for other people ever later. Part of my 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 part of how I my personal dedication to Gynarchy has to do with being a service oriented submissive. That's how I got my start in the community. That's how I relate to it. So pretty much every day I'm personally dedicating myself to Gynarchy. And just so you know, I'm not fucking around with you. I have proof of this. I went through damn near every library in Massachusetts and I made suggestions for Viola's books to be in their catalogs. This is all the paperwork. Oh, yes. Do you see that? That's all 12 counties that I could cover. Not only did I do that, but I also took the liberty of writing down which libraries had her books in their catalog. Fun little fact, the vast majority of the time, Viola's ebooks are in their catalog, but not the actual books themselves. It's very rare when you find her books in a format other than ebook. So I did this, and I do this every day. It's still way more effective when somebody from the county does it. So never think that just because I'm doing it, you can't do better. You always can. If you're from the particular county or country, they will take you a billion times more seriously than they'll take me. But despite that, I've had success. Some of them, see, if they even read it, it's a success. If they even take a look at it, because it might get them thinking, hey, I want to read that. Hey, that interests me. When I even when I I'll get to that in a moment, but that is what happened there. And so I made probably over 400 or 500 suggestions. Some individuals may have read it, may not have engaged with it, but some of them are taking it into consideration. So there's that. This is also, though Rhode Island is much smaller, this is Rhode Island. So I did that. Hawaii's been a bit of a different case because when I went to Hawaii to make the suggestions, I had the problem of running into a system in which there's one library, and of course every library had its own page, but I wasn't really sure how to go about it, so I did the best I could and emailed the people I thought could get the books in the store. But you thought I was done. You thought it was over, didn't you? No. The whole point of this is it never ends. So, by suggesting the titles, by getting more people to become aware of it, it spreads the ideas. I am one of the people who personally believes that there are many people who are gynarchists who just don't self identify that way. It happened to me the other day. This is how I know they're real. I have one living down the street from me who works at a local food place. She got it out of me. I don't know why. I didn't even try to mention it, but somehow the conversation ended up going towards me looking up other libraries, and I mentioned the author of the books, and something about women running things, and she was basically in agreement with that. She wanted things that way. So in other words, this was a gynarchist in everything but name. And this happens to me when I'm in my community. Sometimes I'll run across a woman who doesn't use the lexicon or labels, but has the sentiment. So if you think that everybody who is in existence knows about gynarchy, knows about gynosupremacy, knows about anything that has to do with the lexicon or the authors, it's not true. They don't know. And that's what gives me hope that if I spread it around long enough, the right people will find it, they'll learn the lexicon, and then they'll either participate in the community or will help to grow the community. So, I'm kind of like, I think of myself as like a farmer. I go out and I try to water the plants and I'm hoping that they'll grow, or I plant the seeds or whatever. And what I do is I make suggestions to people. Sometimes I suggested to her to look up her name. So if she's interested enough, she'll find out about the titles and she might purchase them. Or she might learn about what these words are. It's like, what is gynarchy? What is this other stuff? What are these other associated concepts? I believe it begins with curiosity. Somebody has to be curious in the first place to do it. So I know that they're here. I know that they are living in my community. I just know that they all don't go around calling themselves the same thing I do. I refer to myself as an in-person community gynarchist. Not everyone wants to even use the word, but we believe the same things, or we have very similar belief systems. That does happen. That's a strange thing, but it does occur. And then, after I was done with those states, I decided, I wonder if I could maybe deal with a foreign group. What about another country? So I took a look at New Zealand, and I found a system that allowed me to bypass certain things. So if I can't call somebody from New Zealand, it's too difficult. The process is, but one thing I learned was they can email me and I can email them. There was a website where I found forms. I think it was the Auckland Libraries. I found forms that allowed me to submit suggestions to their library without having a library card. And there were like over 50 of those libraries. So I spent about 2 hours submitting all the suggestions. So now they know. And I know that her books were not in that catalog because I took a look at it. And the catalog covers all of those different libraries. So now I made suggestions to all of them. One other thing I did, and this is part of gynarchic activism, is constantly thinking, how can you grow the community? How can you get more people to read Viola Valturine's books? How can you get more people to learn about this stuff? So I did make a call yesterday to a women's study. I don't know if it's like the staff line, or if it's like the desk line or whatever. But I did make a call to one of my local colleges because I saw that there were several women, and I wanted to ask them a few questions. And what I did was I left a voice message, and it said something along the following lines. I said, first question, have you ever heard of Viola Valturine and these books and the titles and stuff? And the next thing is, do you include contemporary works in your curriculum? If not, how do you determine what is in your curriculum? And I asked if someone from who's not attending that college can email them, because sometimes emailing a college can be a little bit messy. Sometimes you have to actually talk to them in person, which I am prepared to do. Now, the whole point of this is if I'm exploring my own curiosity. That's how I dedicate myself to Gynarchy. I want to know, how are people at these colleges going to react to what to the knowledge of this woman's existence and her books? Will they be positive, negative? This is all part of it. Because if they're positive, and if they do include temporary works in their curriculum, then there you go. Now you've got books in the hands of college students, people who are young, who are just beginning to shape and form their identity, and who might take an interest in this stuff. So it all just, this is part of what I do. I consider these all, technically, these are all little things, right? But I do lots of little things. So two suggestions to a library doesn't seem like a big deal, does it? It seems like a little thing. If I multiply that by 250, it's a bunch of little things becoming a bigger thing. So that's my philosophy as it relates to activism. That's one of my philosophies. If you're going to do something, do lots of little things. So this right now is a little thing. I'm testing the waters and seeing first if I can establish contact or communication without spending my money, because I need that for myself and my family, But if I can contact them without actually having to buy an Uber, that's good, but I will eventually take that step if that's what's necessary. Because once they see me in person with her books, it's going to be a very different conversation. Because no matter what, the importance of doing this kind of stuff, the importance of dedicating yourself in this way is to learn. I kind of think of myself as what's called a Gynarchic researcher. I go around and I do research on behalf of the Gynarchy community. I dedicate myself to Gynarchy through my research. We have to know what we don't know. If we don't do that, then the community doesn't change. We don't get new members. We don't get new people talking. We don't have fresh voices, artists, all this stuff. And so by going to and exploring all these different avenues, we're discovering and we're uncovering things. It's like we're like somebody going on a journey through an unknown land, and we are in unknown territory. At least I maybe not all of us, but I certainly am. I have never done this before. I have never tried to approach certain types of people before, and I'm doing that because my hope is that no matter what, even at the worst case scenario, I find out what not to do. But and also learn from my mistakes in my approach. But I am finding out that there are more people who are on my side than I thought. And I think sometimes people don't want to believe it. But it is there. It's just a question of, how do you reach people? How do you get to somebody in a positive way? How do you help them start their own journey? And that's where I'm at. I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do I talk to these individuals? What do I say? What is my approach? Because just contacting one particular college, it's very little in comparison because there's billions of people, right? What happens when I start contacting every women's study group in every college in the United States? Is it still little then? No, it's a bunch of little things becoming a big thing. So I do agree that little things can lead to a big thing, but I think we need to start doing lots of little things. Anyways, that's my personal opinion. I'm going to continue going on with my research. After I'm done with taking care of a couple of matters down the street, of course I got to eat first. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to try to finish dealing with New Zealand, and then I'm going to maybe either shift back to the States or I'm going to consider other countries. My personal belief regarding her titles and her works is, if you are from a foreign country, please get her books in their catalog, because we have an administration coming up that I don't know what they're going to do, but I think one of the greatest gifts you can give to an author is to ensure that if something bad happens to them, and I hope not, that they live beyond, because if it's in a bunch of different countries, you can't stop it. At that point, it's going to go global. So as many different countries as you can, whether it's Australia, United Kingdom, whatever, the more her books are in other people's places, the more you spread these ideas around, the more difficult it is to contain them within any one location. Her books are in quite a lot of libraries in the United States, I'm coming to find. In fact, I'd wager to say at least over 100. So there's quite a lot. I mean, talking about individual libraries, not a county library, but individually. There are a lot of them. But I didn't see as much in the foreign countries, and I'm taking a look at them now. And the more you can get other countries to take it on, the more difficult it's going to be to slow down and stop the acceleration and the progress of the Gynarchy community. Because once you have enough different countries doing it, well, now no one country has the same politics, has the same policies, is always the same in the way they treat people or treat things or ideologies. So that is the reason why you never keep your eggs in one basket here. And I really hope that the eggs are not all in one basket. In other words, the U.S. Because if I hear that they're reading them in Europe, that gives me hope and says, well, look, her books are there. They're not just here, So that gives me hope. And the more hope I have, the more I feel like this can go somewhere. Anyways, I'm going to get back to my work. Please take care, everybody. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great day.